Hi, this is Jacques, and welcome to this guitar video lesson. Now, this video lesson is mainly for people who haven't played guitar ever. It's going to be very basic. We're going to be talking about string names, we'll talk about chords, and we'll also talk a little bit about equipment and what gear to use. So, let's get started on this video lesson. Okay, so the string names, starting with the top one here, is E. The second string on the guitar is A. Third one down is D. Fourth one down is G. Fifth one down is a B. And the final string on the guitar is E. So you actually have two E's on the guitar, the top one and the bottom one. And when you play those together, you can hear it's actually the same note. One is just a little lower in the pitch, and the other one is higher. Now notice that I said top string, I call that number one. Actually, if you go and buy guitar strings and you want a first string, it's actually going to be from the bottom up. So if you buy a pair of strings, the bottom one is 1, B is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But when I teach, I like to view the top one as number one, just visually, because it makes more sense, that you go from the top and call that number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can do both. Just be aware that when you buy strings, this is going to be number 1. If you'd rather call this number 1, the top one, just in terms of lessons, go ahead and do that. They both work, so it's up to you. Now, before we start playing, we have to make sure that the guitar is in tune. If you don't already have a tuner, I really suggest that you get one. There's nothing worse than playing everything right, but it still sounds wrong. If that happens, it's usually because the guitar is out of tune. Now, I have two versions here. One is called a Crafter tuner, and the other one here, the red one, is a Snark. Those are just the brand names. These are clip-on tuners that you can clip on the guitar and tune from there, and I'll show you that in a minute. But it doesn't really matter what kind of tuner you get as long as it's easy to use. Get a tuner, very important. Okay, so this is my little Crafter tuner. I'm going to turn that on. The cool thing about this one is it lights up when you're in tune. So I'm going to start with the top E string here. Alright, that's green, it's E, that's in tune. The second one here is going to be an A, also in tune, works great. Here's my third one. Oh, that one I can adjust a little bit. There we go, there's your D. Next string, works good. B string, needs to go down a little bit. There we go, and finally the E. There you go. So now we're in tune. Really important that the guitar is in tune. It makes everything sound a lot better. Now, one thing you have to realize, when you play guitar, you will be playing a lot of chords. Now, I don't know if you've been playing music before, if you play another instrument or had music in school, but the way I view chords is you have two very important types of chords. You have what's called a major chord and a minor chord. Now, a major chord is generally more bright or happier in the sound, whereas a minor chord is more dark, more melancholy. Some even call it sad. Now, those terms are relative because you can have a happy song that has a minor chord in there. You can have a sad song that has a major chord in there. But it's important to distinguish between the two, because if you play a song and you have an E major but you play E minor instead, it's going to sound completely different. So view it as two types of chords, major and minor. Now every chord you play on the guitar is going to have a major version and a minor version. Everything else is just additions to those two types of chords. Alright, so the two first chords we're going to learn are going to be E minor and E major. The E minor looks like this, and the E major looks like this. Now hopefully you can hear that there's a little bit of a difference in the sound. The minor has a darker tone to it, darker sound, darker what's called quality. The major chord has a happier, brighter sound. Now let me play those two up close for you. Okay, so starting with the E minor chord. What you're going to do is you're going to take your middle finger and place it on the second fret on the A string, and then you're going to take your third finger and place it underneath that. And all you do now is strum. Now you've created a beautiful E minor chord. If you wanted to change that to a major chord, all you would have to do is take your first finger and move it down to the G string, keep what you had before on the E minor, and now you are playing a beautiful sounding E major. So E minor without the first finger, E major with the added first finger. What I do with my right hand when I play these two types of chords, when I play the E minor, I play every string. And I also play every string when I play E major. Now here's an important fact. Whenever you play a chord, the top note of that chord is also the name of the chord. So here we're playing an E major chord. That's why we have the E string on top. Now it doesn't matter whether it's E major or E minor, we still have the E on top. So there's the major. When I switch to minor, I still have the E on top. So essentially, all chords have two versions, a major version and a minor version. E major and E minor. Alright, so let's do two more chords. Let's do A minor and A major. A minor looks like this, sounds like this. And A major sounds like this. Minor, A major. So let's play an A minor chord. It's going to look like this. And what's interesting is it's actually the same fingering as you had with E major. You're just moving everything down a step. So middle finger goes on the D string. You got the third finger under that, and then you add the first finger here on the first fret of the B string, and you play. Let's also do an A major chord. A major is a little different. Here you want to squeeze all your fingers within the first fret here. So that means second fret, 1, 2, second fret, first finger, middle finger, third finger, there we go. And then you have a nice, hopefully, a nice sounding A major chord. So A minor, A major. Now, with a lot of practice, you can actually develop your ear to hear whether a chord is major or minor. This is a great skill, and I always tell my own students to work on developing their ears. The reason you want to develop your ear is because essentially music is about listening. And if you can hear whether a chord is major or minor, it's just going to enhance your level of musicianship. Now let's say you're playing in a band or you're in a jam situation, if you can hear what chords are being played, it's going to make things a lot easier. Now let's look at some of the tools and toys that you want to get when you're playing guitar. Now right off the bat here, a metronome is a really, really good thing to get. It helps you develop good time and good timing in your playing. And what it does basically is it keeps time for you so you can practice your chords or your scales or your songs along with a beat. Now you see that number over here, it says 100 beats per minute. That means that it's clicking 100 times a minute. And you can adjust that. If you think that's too fast, you could go down to maybe 80 beats a minute, and then it's slower. And you can also speed that up. So really, really good tool. Another thing you want to get probably is a capo or a capo, or however you want to pronounce it. This is a cool little tool that you clip on the guitar to change tuning or change the sound of the chords you're playing. You may have seen people play or use these. One of my favorite guitar players or songwriters is James Taylor, and he pretty much always uses a capo, and I use it myself a lot. So capo, really good tool. Strings, of course, you got to have strings. You got to have a lot of strings. This one here is for electric guitar. It's 11 gauge string, and this is the Acoustic. I bought these in Copenhagen, Denmark. Pretty nice little set of strings. Of course, you've got so many types to choose from. You've got, and I'm talking about brands. You've got Fender. You've got Gibson. You don't really have to spend a lot of money on strings. Just get a gauge that's comfortable for you to play. The heavier the gauges, the thicker a sound you're going to get, but they're also going to be tougher on your fingers. Whereas a lighter gauge is going to be easier on your fingers, and the strings are going to be a little more wobbly, but you're not going to get as much tone and sound out of them. The other strings that I like to use here are the Diodario. These are acoustic strings, and they work really nice. So get some strings that are good for you. And finally, we have picks. A lot of students of mine in the beginning asked, what kind of picks should I use? Now, generally picks come in three types of sizes: soft or thin, medium, and heavy. And just get something that works for you. You got these picks here. This is kind of a heavy pick. The gauge is pretty heavy here. This is a lighter pick, very, very thin, very, very wobbly. The thinner the picks are, the easier it is to strum chords in the beginning. I would say if you can practice so you get to the point where you can use a heavy pick, that's what I would suggest. Now this is my personal Jacques Darville pick, endorsed by Steve Clayton, okay? Enough promotion, but this is a cool pick. It's a heavy pick, works really, really well. So I would suggest start out with a soft pick, but gradually increase to a heavy pick.